We are all honored all the way from Iran. We're going to speak about autism, how to deal with it, what is the importance, how it affects our lives. Sohrevard, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Okay, well, first I appreciate your idea, dear Noor, which is very inspiring to your audience. And it's my pleasure to join with you. This is Sohrevard from Iran, Tehran. I'm graduated in public law, Master of Public Law from University of Tehran, and now I'm a voluntary member of Autism NGO in Iran, and now I'm writing a book about how to protect legally from children with autism disorder, and I'm eager to say some factual and scientific fact about the autism and how we can legally protect from children or adults with autism disorder.
So my first question here, Sohrevard, why did you get
Yes.
interested in speaking about autism, defending autistic people?
Yes. Uh, Actually, I'm an instrument player. I play some classic Iranian instrument. I had a master in this field who taught me instruments. Unfortunately, his son was autistic, and when he burst, they understood that he faced with autism disorder, and emotionally, I was very sad for him, and I thought that how can I help to him, because uh, the parents with autism children have many difficulties in their life. And as my major was law, I decided that help people with autism disorder. That's my aim.
So first here, how would you define autism?
Yes, autism actually is a developmental disorder. The developmental disorder and characteristic by difficulties with social interaction and communications, and restricted and repetitive behavior in children. The parents of these children often notice signs during the first 3 years of their child's life. And it's a spectrum. Autism is a spectrum from low to high. The most important factor in autism children is difficulties in have communication with people and in social interactions. They cannot understand the signs of people. For example, when people tell a joke to them, they cannot understand the content of the what other people say. And the other is a repetitive behaviors. And yes, the developmental disorder is the main characteristic of the autism.
Okay, so let's get to the regulations. What regulations are there internationally in this field?
Yes, actually, if I want to divide regulations, I should say that we don't have any specific law governing the autism people. Regionally, yes, we have, for example, in European Union, they had some specific regulations governing the autism children, but internationally, we can the law of the protection, legal protection of children of people with disabilities. It's a general term actually, but WTO included that general law to autism children as well.
So let's go to the autistic children. What are their rights?
Okay, as if I want to say about their specific rights, I can categorize the rights to general rights and specific rights. As any human being, they have general rights. We can count rights governing to the all human. And if I want to count them, let me please organize my mind in order to, yes, okay. Now I count the general rights of all people, which is reflected in UN. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Right to equality. The first right to all humans. Right to equality. It's in. I can explain this right by this way that all people legally is equal in front of law. We could not discriminate people in courts. And justice is equal to everyone. Freedom from discrimination. This is a special right of children with or adults with autism. Why? Because as you know, discrimination is not legally and ethically or morally acceptable in the world. But we have a content named positive discrimination. The positive discrimination is against discrimination or negative discrimination. For example, when we say that men and women are equal and they have equal rights, this, if we want to take care of women against the discrimination, we can give to them positive discrimination. For example, in parliamentary elections, some countries have dedicated some special capacity for women in their parliament elections. For example, they say that 30 or 20% of the elected people should be from women. About the autistic people, we should consider positive discrimination. For example, for the right to, for example, positive discrimination for the recruitments, for the employments. Actually, countries should consider some capacity for them in their, for example, employment laws, in their labor laws. For example, when one governmental body want to employ people and to catch the people in their organization, they should give some special capacity to people with disorder, people with especially autism disorder. Because, as I said before, the autism is a spectrum, which can be started from a low level to high level. Some low level spectrum, some people with autism that they can ordinarily do their job and behave as some normal people. They can learn in typical schools with normal people, and even they can work like some other people. So I think the positive discrimination for the people with autism disorder is the most important thing that we can say in law. And now I want to say about the right of learning. The right of learning is very important. The second most important right that governs to these people, because some of the children with autism disorder, the community and the system should take care about them by constructing the new special schools because of their disorder to learning something. And unfortunately, in countries like my country, Iran, there are we have many difficulties in this area, because special schools is not many. I can say in 80 million population of Iran, and in 31 provinces which is existed in Iran, maybe we have 20 to 30 schools dedicating to these people. And I think that the international bodies and the national governmental and non-governmental bodies should consider this as a main notes in their policy makings. Yes.
Okay, so Sohrevard, like your answer really surprised me. Let me ask you this. Okay, basically you spoke about the rights for employability, for freedom, for discrimination. These are the basic rights of every person on earth. Why should there be specific regulations to give the people their own rights? Do you understand my question?
Yes, you say that. If I'm, please correct me if I'm right. You say that these are general rights, governing to every people. And what's the reason that I said them about the autistic people? Yes, because if I want to clear my arguments, I should say that, for example, in a country, when policymakers want to decide and arrange policies in their countries, they should not consider anybody as a equal entity. Why? Because some people needs protection, because they can't I want to say that we can consider them as normal people. They really want protected, should be legally protected in order that they can live with some They can learn along with typical people. An autistic child, for example, in learning, he or she needs protection because if they go, for example, to a typical schools, maybe they could not learn something. Maybe they need help more than a normal child. And this is the community, this is the every human's responsibility to protect them. If we face with equal conditions, yes, you are right. If, for example, in employment conditions in companies, when we compare with autistic people and with normal people, actually the companies search for gains, for beneficiary issues. Maybe some people with all disabilities, not just autism. For example, blind people would not work some such typical people. And this is why I say the positive discrimination should be considered about autistic people, so that they feel that they can live like us. And it's our humanitarian goal in autistic NGOs. That we could empower them. The best phrase that I can use for these people is empowerment. They need to be empowerment. Yes.
Okay, so my next question is, what can governments do more to help autistic people?
Okay, well, first I should say that unfortunately in all around the world, governments, governmental bodies and policymakers promise very nice to people. For example, before elections, they promise that if you elect us, we can do anything for you. And but unfortunately, there's a distinction between the fact and between their sayings. And when, for example, they elected and in fact now they should functionally fulfill their commitments, they said we don't have enough budget to gain our goals. That's a contradiction in my view. That's a contradiction. First, I should say that the policymakers should balance their promises and what can actually they do. And governmental bodies and government actually have a very mechanism to protect such kind of people. Why? Because they are, for example, we pay taxes to government. Why we pay taxes to government? They are very financial instruments that they can dedicate especially to people which need helps. For example, I want to say that the social welfare. The social welfare is a point of view that which can help them. I don't want to explain the differences between liberalism governments or between socialism governments. These are the we can argue about the differences philosophically. Okay, but in my view, the NGOs and the people should pursue their goals in order to oblige the government to dedicate special budgets to these vulnerable people. Dedicating budgets to vulnerable people is a very important thing that can help them. For example, in our country, Iran, fortunately, because of the efforts of the NGOs, the government in their budgetary plans dedicate some percentage of, for example, when cosmetic industry gains some benefits from their sales in country, they should give special parts of their profit to vulnerable people, including autism disordered people, which is very, I think, a positive step in Iran. And the second one is enacting the laws governing to these people. First, I want to say something. Having good laws and regulations is one thing, and applying the laws and regulations is another thing. We had in Iran, we had a policymaker which say something true and interesting. He said that for example, he said about the labor law that in Iran, after our revolution, after our Islamic revolution, Iran enacted the most effective and supportive law governing employers. Our labor law system is very protective. But he said that, the interesting thing that he said that we have the best law in the world, but functionally, when we want to apply this, we face difficulties. So these are two things: enacting good regulations, but applying the good regulations is most important from having good regulations. Another thing that what governments can do about the autistic people, I think that they should inform people about the concept of the disability. Many parents now, when I see them in our NGOs, are very unhappy because they say that now we understand the condition of our children, but as people, as ordinary people in the society, cannot have a clear view from our children with disabilities. This makes at first difficult to us. For example, when we see an autistic child, they cannot know how to behave with this child. They maybe some people giggle them, for example, and the government can inform people about this kind of disability spectrum, so that all people know their rights, know their characteristic, how to behave with them. And this is very important thing that governments can do with their instruments like television, like radio, and so on.
What about the side of the people? What can the people do?
Yes, if I want to say about the role of people, now in my view, the role of people is more important from the role of government. In a classical view of government, we say that government should do everything, and we should. It's the government role. It's the government responsibility to protect people with some disabilities. But now, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and charities as well have very important law. They complement the governmental law. They are complementary actions, and they can help government in this area. Now, I think that non-governmental organizations, with their associations, with their meetings and sessions that are held in the NGOs, people can do many things. For example, but now I want to take an example from Iran about their positive role in the NGOs in protecting the people with autism disorder. For example, in our criminal law, in our Iranian new Islamic criminal law, it is predicted that a mechanism that NGOs with NGOs in which the people work with children, all children. If the children in the society is sued by someone, sexually harassment or something like this, although the prosecutor should pursue the for example, should pursue guilty people and do some judicial actions against the crime. But now NGOs in Iran can take the such, for example, sexual harassment to the courts as a one party, because when one wants to sue a criminal case in the courts, they should have a capacity, competence. We say the word competence. For example, when my child was sued for sexual harassment, or his or her parents can sue in the courts, in criminal courts, not other people. But now NGOs as well can come as a party to the again, to the court, and that's a nice step in my view. So, in other words, the charities. It's a fact that governments spends its budgets in very areas that is not interesting for people. They buy missiles, they buy, for example, bombs for their army, and they spend very high amount of budgets to such kind of things. Now, how can the people help in this field? Charities, I can say that by the first function of charities is dedicating money to such kind of people. It's not all the roles that they can play. The money is one thing, but the second thing is emotional protection. Emotional protection, for example, by holding some. For example, I want to say that some bazaars that they can, for example, children with autism can go and sell their handwork, for example, things. We have now in Iran, for example, monthly, they, especially in coronavirus situation, yeah, that we can hold such communities. We have some markets, some humanitarian markets for these people. Emotionally, it can help these people. They can we can say by this activities to say that you can work and communicate with us such as any other people. And I think the government and the people and the NGOs, the charities, all they can have a role in make this kind of people lives better.
Okay, so my question here now is about your book. Can you give us a general view about your book?
Yes. The title of my book is Legal Protection from People with Autism spectrum. In my book, I can now categorize the chapters of my book. Now, after the introduction and the defining the people with this autism spectrum, at the first chapter of my book, the legal laws and the laws and regulations, international laws and regulations governing the people with disabilities comprise the first chapter of my book. The second chapter is about the national and internal laws and regulations governing to people with autism disability. At the third chapter, I describe the basic rights. As I said before, the general and the specific rights of people with autism, disability, and I explain some philosophically dimensions of these people rights. Let me please now say something more from my, yes. Yes, and the conclusion I describe the factual conditions, especially in Iran, in which I conclude that now people with autistic disorders, unfortunately, legally we can't legally in current situation protect from the law. And my goal to writing this book, first I should say that this is the first book in this field in Iranian legal system. Some books are available about the general disability conditions, legal protection from disabilities, this general phrase, not especially about the people with autism disorder. My aim in writing this book is to inform the society, inform the governments even about the first the current situation of the current situations of these people and how we can make them better, make it better. But I suggest a special law for this field. As you know, in law, we can say that we can categorize the most effective tools. One, we have laws, that statutes, which is different from system to system. But for example, in Iran, the most important thing is to enact a law which is passed by the parliament. You say that statute. We don't have now in Iran a specific law about that. The second one, bylaws. Bylaws in Iranian legal system is enacted by state. And it's the second priority of them. First, we should enact a law. Then the state should enact bylaws in order to explain the terms of the law. And I think that if I can gain this aim, it's a very big advantage to the first for me and two for my country. Yes.
It's been awesome and extraordinary talking to you, Sohrevard, today. Thank you so much for that indeed.
You're welcome, but at the end, please let me, if I have time, I want to,
sure.
Yes, I want to read a poem.
Yeah.
For the poem for the audiences, which it's a very interesting poem about the people with autism disorder.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Let's say that I'm special, just like you. I keep to myself quiet as a mouse. I'm a happy kid most of the time. I walk on my toes and thrill round and round. It's hard to sit still when I want to play. It's hard to sit still when I want to play. Things don't look the same to you and me. Say what you say easy and clear. I can do better when you think that I can. I think that this poem describes all things that I wanted to say in this meeting. Nice. When we interesting thing that when I read this poem, some parts of this poem actually define the normal people dimension as well. For example, look at this part. It's hard to sit still when I want to play. This is very ordinary, and we can encounter to this as well. Or for example, it say that things don't look the same to you and me. And the last thing I want to say that scientifically, as I said, autism is spectrum. In rare conditions, we have some elder people which was I think that if you search in the Google that elder people with autism disability, you were shocked. You're shocked. Why? Because you said that some famous people, some scientists, some very good scientists was encountered with autism. And that is very interesting to me. I want to thank you again from because of your idea is very nice in my view. If you share this meeting, for example, in a social media, I can reshare it in Iran, and now I know that if the member of our NGOs know if I can share this video with them, exactly, it's a very interesting thing for them. Thank you very much for your time, and glad to meet you.
Thank you, Sohrevard.